within this. I set that up to show me the duplicates because what matters here is that this tag, this header that's tag, material name, type name is very, very important because these can't have duplicate items. So this is what's doing two things. It's driving the mark that goes into the material, and then it's also driving the name of the material. And there's a lot we can do with the name. So, if we wanted to just say, I wanted to combine P1, pink color 1, and make that the name, we can do that. But the key thing I had to do was I had to come in and I had to pull out. I noticed that you guys were putting then that exterior paint is now EP6, and that was put as an identifier at the end of that text string within that cell. That's not really structured data. That's two sets of data items that need to be set.
Because it wasn't tying to anything else, it was a request from the contractors that we match the coding, so we just stuck them there instead of making another column. So you just moved them all into its own column.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's Excel gibberish. I don't want to get into the weeds on, but yeah, so that's set up for you now too. And if you wanted to, so the way I see it, I don't know, I wasn't quite familiar with the, I'm issuing a sheet that has, a separate Excel file as a PDF that then has my finished schedule on it. So that makes sense to me. So if you wanted to use two, you could still do that because this is missing all that high-end header data. So you're missing your logo, dated files and all those things. So what you can do is always just go ahead and keep that as a bank and then link this document and its specific set of cells into your actual issuing PDF, if that makes sense. And
well, I think the plan moving forward is we were going to create a sheet for the legend, the finished legend, and then put it into the drawings so we wouldn't have to issue the separate PDF anymore. So I think what you're doing is perfect because then that'll go directly into Revit, and then anytime we need to distribute the legend separately, we would just PDF the whole sheet out of Revit and send it out.
All right. Yeah, I like to try and provide as many solutions as possible because you just never know on projects where they're going to go. So, okay, cool. Then we don't have to go through that part. Now, some other parts that I've added to is I've noticed that, and this is, I didn't do it from your base one. I did it from the live project one with me and Jeannie. So there's some other things happening, like I filled in, solid surfaces just through MID and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then there was also exterior materials that were created in with this. So I've added the function within this. So downstream, we can start to look at adding the exterior function as a parameter to separate out interiors from the architectural. That functionality isn't currently in there, but I pre-planned for that to be an issue that's going to come up.
Okay, yeah, I think my thought was originally we were just going to have two separate columns. One was going to be an exterior column, one was going to be an interior column on the same page. So if it needs to be two separate Excel files is what I was thinking, and then we would paste them both in. But if there's a way to do it all in one and have them separate.
Yeah, to me it just makes more logical sense. And I guess, it's more, at this point, it's really about the way you guys want to work. In my mind, everything's possible to a point. So in this case, I was like, well, we'll just combine it all into one, and then this then serves as an identifier that says, okay, I can later split and Revit, right? Because Excel, I want that to drive, and I need the data to be very structured whenever I'm programming it. So having everything just in a batch line works great.
Yeah. So it's not hard to split it in Revit.
Oh, heck no. Once I have, if you want that identifier, I'll make a note to make that identifier work.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
Let's bring up my notebook here. Okay.
Back on the comment about the fact that it's not editable, you need to really be going back to the source file for the Excel to edit it. Is there a way to kind of like lock it once it's in on the sheet so that people know that there's a problem and won't accidentally do it?
So that would be for the table gen tool.
Yeah, the one that you first showed us.
Yeah, I try to, so the mantra with that tool is even in the office settings, it kind of blew up. I'll give it a little back history. It blew up beyond what it was meant to do. It's kind of your get out of jail free card at the end of CDs when I just need to stick something on a sheet and get it out the door. To use it in a workflow that's now, constantly being utilized, I think that's just a little bit of education. There's multiple ways we can approach it. You can't lock out the view itself, but you can, and because they're only deadlines and and the schedule's alive, so even for both tools, there's no way within even work sets to kind of say, hey guys, don't lock that out, or don't touch that. And it's really getting into the crux of what a BIM manager kind of does from day to day. So there are ways to kind of spy. So I have live spy tools that watch the people and what they're doing, and I get red flags when things get corrupted, and they do things like importing CAD files. So that's like the invasive method when you're dealing with like 600 people. In this case, really just a little education and putting like an XXX identifier in front of that schedule or something to alert the end user that, hey, I live somewhere else, and go see this file. I think it's just the nature of the project. So, I don't know how you guys are doing model management or anything on projects, but making sure that somebody's kind of taking over that model and those kind of workflows, and understanding that, hey, this is here. When you come on board, don't be editing it over here,
Right.
kind of thing. So,
Okay.
yeah, I really wish there was a way to like say, that's why we developed the invasive, or that invasive kind of tool, is to actually stop people, because we couldn't gray out buttons and stop it. So I said, you know what, I can watch the journal files in real time and get alerts when people are doing those things. So.
Yeah, because right now we just tell people, please don't touch them, because when you do, if it's not done right, we end up with large change orders, but we keep ending up with change orders. So.
Yeah, I was going to kind of talk about that when we got to details too, because I'm glad you said that, because I figured you guys might have a few of those come in quite a bit. Okay, so anyway, let me make my note of here for the function for materials. That's no problem. Now the other parts of this that, and if we got time at the end, I'll show you a little spy tool that I got here.
Playing with that.
Francis would probably love a spy tool.
Francis, this is, if you like the Pi Revit one, you're gonna love the one I got.
Awesome. That's my biggest thing is I catch something or something halfway through, and I have to track down who's doing it and then tell them why not to do it.
Yeah, and that's, again, and it's education, and it's tough, especially in the heat of the moment, to be nice after you've told the person 12 times. So I got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna throw up a stop function that basically halts your Revit, throws a window up in front of you, and says, you need to go talk to me. It's pretty bad. We don't deploy it unless the person's just not listening. So.
That's a lot of power, Francis. Okay.
Yeah.
Considering I lose power up here.
It is a lot of power. You can do timesheet tracking automatically for Revit, all those kind of things with it. So anyway, so the other parts of this, right, when we look at materials, so diving into kind of the grab a file here. Talk about materials. While that's coming up, slow Revit. There's ways to begin to assemble the materials outside of just the data. I know you guys just asked for the data. So here we see a random set of numbers. So the alpha serves two purposes. It's the transparency. So for now, everyone's going to be 255. It's rare that we're using alpha. That's more for render appearances and when you're doing rendering. Now, transparency is something that's going to affect the graphic side of it. So this is a number that's going to start defining how transparent that material is. So if we're doing glazing, so that would come up down here in the exterior. So if I have, bronze glass, green glass, whatever it may be, you would start defining, maybe 50% transparent. The other values are the RGB values. So I started to go in looking at, I'm like, but then I stopped myself because I'm like, well, wait a minute, this isn't even a real project, and that's not my responsibility here to be doing that. But you can go then online, and then you can start grabbing the RGB values from the actual paint swatches that are up online from the manufacturer, and then you start putting them in there. And then that will actually define the color in Revit. So when you're going to do a rendering or like a shaded view, it'll actually then turn that on. And when we get to placing the families, you'll see that this drives also that graphics color.
It'll get rid of the teal toilet partitions.
Or the salmon pink plaster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see that this is just like random pseudo color. I just generated a bunch of random numbers for it. Now the other
that'll help
parts
Connie later.
Yeah.
Rendering
So
guy. Yeah.
one other field that I haven't added because really I didn't get into the appearances because we didn't talk about rendering yet is that we can put in like a hatch color individually for each material too. I just hard coded that into the Dynamo file to be 125, so it's a nice light gray, allows the line lights to pop with it. So we can actually add that in there to change it too. And then you'll see here that model patterns, drafting patterns, render appearance. So this is where when we get into rendering and you have a bank of materials that you're always rendering with, like wood is always going to be wood, birch plywood is always going to be birch plywood. I'm going to have 6 different concretes and then that's it. So when we get to that level, you can start putting that in programmatically too. And then if you have custom patterns that you want to use, those are there as well. For now, I just left it blank, and the script actually isn't even reading this. It's set up to read it and pump it. It just hasn't made the connection yet. So when you want to turn that switch on,